What did you think when you first heard about Malacca Gateway?
So our project actually is so basically we have 4 islands. The first island is the tourism island. We will have some theme park, cruise terminal here, and a ferry terminal, and we will have a marina. So the second island is basically for business purpose. Third island is the port. So this one is the deep sea port, where we will store the oil. And the fourth island is the container port.
So the Portuguese area is like right here?
Yeah, somewhere here. Somewhere here.
Like where the big buildings are? Is the Portuguese settlement going to be able to stay? Like, are you going to have to demolish the Portuguese settlement?
No, it will not affect the... They were still there.
Why are there skyscrapers there then?
Sorry?
There's like big buildings like where the Portuguese settlement is.
Yeah, it's not the actual... it's not the actual building.
Malacca Gateway is a $10.5 billion project that first began in 2014 with much fanfare and hype. A partnership between Malaysian and Chinese developers, this was meant to become a 1,500-acre colossus of development. There'd be a massive container port, a bulk cargo port, a business district, a cruise terminal, fancy shopping malls, luxury condos, a 7-star hotel, an amusement park, and basically everything that you can imagine in the post-globalized world, all wrapped up together in one development. Malacca Gateway was intended to become one of the crown jewels in China's Belt and Road Initiative.
A long time ago, a number of routes were etched on this planet, spanning 8,000 kilometers on land and sea. It was called the Silk Road. In 2013, one man decided to revive it. He called it the Belt and Road Initiative.
Belt and Road opens a new space for growth in the world economy. It creates a new platform for international trade and investment, and provides new ways for global economic governance, and contributes to the well-being of people in many countries.
China's Belt and Road Initiative, otherwise known as the New Silk Road, first began in 2013 with the intention of tying China closer together with the countries of Asia, the Middle East, Africa, and Europe, infrastructurally, economically, as well as politically, via physical trade routes that are speckled with development zones, logistics centers, manufacturing hubs, and new cities. There are 2 main components of the plan: the Silk Road Economic Belt, which is a network of overland trade corridors that stretch between China and Europe, and the Maritime Silk Road, which is a series of ports that extend from the Pacific Ocean all the way to the Mediterranean Sea.
Back in 2013, when President Xi launched the Belt and Road Initiative, China was facing 2 challenges domestically. One was a domestic oversupply of construction capacity. China had built a massive state-owned enterprise network of contractors specialized in building bridges, tunnels, mining, and all sorts of other public infrastructure. They had to be deployed elsewhere because China had already built massive amounts of infrastructure at home. Similarly, after the 2008-2009 financial crisis in the United States, when US Treasury bond yields had gone down to almost zero, all the excess capacity of capital that China had to be invested in bankable projects. The Chinese were looking for projects around the world, and through the Belt and Road Initiative, they could solve both the domestic overcapacity of construction as well as the domestic overcapacity of capital. And the idea was that China would share its success of building its way out of poverty for millions and millions of its people by bringing these sorts of projects to populations around the world.
China's interest in Malaysia revolves around a geopolitical situation that former Chinese President Hu Jintao dubbed the Malacca Dilemma. Basically, 80% of China's oil and gas passes through the Strait of Malacca, which is effectively controlled by the United States. So China has been diligently forging partnerships with ports along both coasts of peninsular Malaysia and is linking them together via the East Coast Rail Link, another Belt and Road project. This means that in the event of conflict with the United States, China could bypass the Strait of Malacca entirely and maintain their lifeline with the rest of the world. In fact, almost the entire Belt and Road can be thought of as a series of back doors for China to continue accessing the rest of the world in the event of war with the United States.
I heard about it, I think, before most people in the kampung were aware of it. You know, I remember getting the brochure in 2000, I think 13 or 14, and I saw the brochure and I brought it back. I said, have you guys heard about this? Look at this. And, you know, people weren't really aware of it at that point. And then it started, and it was just like, this is really gonna kill the kampung.
To be very truthful, in fact, we were in the dark about the Malacca Gateway project. Now, we only knew of the project when fishermen came back from fishing on the 7th of January in 2014, that there was groups of people or in tugboats. They were planting flags in front of our shore, and they didn't understand what was going on. And later, when they came back the next day, a few fishermen went out and we saw these poles that were planted into the seabed having the flag called Malacca Gateway, and still we did not understand what it was all about. And later we discovered that it was actually a launch by this company, KAJ Development, and we have protested from day one.
Projek bernilai 40 bilion ringgit itu didakwa menjejas kehidupan mereka, terutama pendapatan nelayan sejak 4 tahun lalu. Sebagai simbolik, penduduk mengusung 3 buah keranda tanda protes terhadap projek berkenaan. Menurut pengerusi Majlis MPKK Perkampungan Portugis, Jacinta Lazaro, yang mengetuai perhimpunan itu, beberapa pertemuan dengan syarikat pemaju KAJ Development Sendirian Berhad telah diadakan sebelum ini, namun tiada sebarang maklum balas. Penduduk bimbang kerana berikutan projek berkenaan perairan di perkampungan Portugis itu didakwa semakin cetek dan dipenuhi lumpur ketika air laut surut.
I mean, there was an article recently where Malacca is famous for its white elephants. That means to say that all these projects that has been initiated by the previous government has turned out to be unprofitable, unsustainable, not viable. So it's just built, but finally have no use for it. Now, give a good example. Pulau Melaka. Pulau Melaka is a man-made island. Now, it was very, very ambitious when it was first launched, but it is something unsustainable. It's a white elephant, yes.
Nothing.
Pulau Melaka is a white elephant.
Pulau Melaka. All the buildings empty.
Yeah. The building has been there for
All
years.
the buildings are empty. Only there's a mosque. That mosque only.
The only thing that brings people is the mosque. Exactly.
Other than that, nothing.
Nothing happens. There's no economic
There's no
activity.
building. All the buildings are empty and broken up and wasted.
It's just wasted. So those who have invested there, it's all money is life saving.
Okay, Pulau Melaka was actually done by another developer, and then it was a failed project, and that they had a lot of problems in terms of project being half done, and those who bought the project were actually in a way deceived. They paid up so much of money, but the project was abandoned, and they had to service their bank loans and whatnot. So many of them finally just gave up on the property and they sold off, or the banks solely acquired it. So it's actually a failed project. The Pulau Melaka is a failed project. It's another white elephant.
Why is Malacca Gateway a white elephant? Well, this is the point in the story where things get a little murky. Initially, Malacca Gateway was started by the Malaysian national government and a local developer who invited in a handful of high-power Chinese development firms as well as the province of Guangdong. But somewhere along the line, things went a little awry. These partnerships broke down and the Malacca Gateway project stagnated, amounting to what the place is today, which is a little more than a slab of reclaimed land in the sea.
Data has identified 2 to 3 dozen countries around the world where the Belt and Road is facing significant implementation challenges, and that is also taking the form of public relation challenges for China. The example of Malaysia and Sri Lanka are the obvious ones in Southeast Asia, where different political parties have taken different positions on the Belt and Road Initiative, and depending on who's in power when, the Belt and Road projects can be seen positively or negatively from the government's perspective. We saw some of these electoral dynamics at play in Malaysia recently, when after a period of deep engagement between China and Malaysia, when the people of Malaysia were being told by their government that projects like the Malacca Gateway would signal Malaysia coming at the global scene and emerging as a global shipping and trading hub with the help of their Chinese supporters. But then when the government changed and President Mahathir Mohamad came to power, a lot of these projects were opened up and scrutinized, and a lot of them came to a screeching halt.
Then came Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad. After taking office in 2018, he right away suspended $22 billion worth of China-backed infrastructure deals. He also scrapped 3 China-backed pipeline projects worth $3 billion. And there was also a railway project called the East Coast Rail Link. It was supposed to be built by China Communications Construction Company for a price tag of nearly $20 billion. He scrapped that too.
But all that's kind of besides the fact, as other than providing China with a geopolitical edge, Malacca Gateway was never really needed. Malaysia currently has a major overcapacity in its maritime sector, and according to the World Bank, won't need additional port infrastructure until at least 2040. There was just never any real demand for Malacca Gateway, and its avarice is coming at the price of one of the most unique cultures and communities on the planet today.